Hello, this is Scott Biceno, editor of Telecoms.com, and today I'm delighted to be speaking to Oleg Volpin from Amdocs, and we're going to just chat a little bit about the state of the European telecoms market. So, Oleg, let me just start by asking you how, looking back over the European telecoms landscape over the last decade, how has it changed most from your perspective on the ground?
So first of all, thank you, Scott, and good morning for this interview. So when you look at the European landscape for the last decade, you can see the major change in the telecom. So if you go back 15 or 20 years ago, the price of the telecom was quite high. It was at the beginning of the journey, and for us, it was a luxury as a service, right? And it wasn't really at that point, if you go back to the 3G, it's not necessarily was a necessary service, right? It was nice to have, but we still were in experimenting mode. Starting from 4G, it's really become an important and necessary service. Give you an example. About 10 years ago, I moved to Netherlands and I had to move to the new house. And actually the first thing that my kids asking me where the fiber will be. Right, not where the electricity or the water is
Yeah.
coming. That was much less important for them. And this is how important it is, and it's truly how important it is. Give another example from those days. I'm based in Madrid, and about a month or so back, there was this major electricity shutdown in Iberia Peninsula, both in the Spain and Madrid. So people was actually living quite okay with no electricity for 11 hours. What they were not willing to live without was an internet that there was no connection, no communication. We couldn't understand what's going on in the world. So it's becoming the major, and this was a much bigger problem than electricity itself, of course, which electricity was the one that caused. So the importance of service become much bigger if you analyze it for the last decade. However, our sustainability of the service, and again, the Spain was one example, but in reliability of the service, because of the cost per consumer that went down drastically, become an issue. And this is a paradigm. It's now really, for majority of the population of the planet, more important service than water and electricity, or at least they think so. While the cost of this service went down 10 times, in some countries, and this impact reliability. This is the change we observe and by the way, it's not just European continent, but in Europe, it's really, really visible.
Okay, yeah. And I can completely relate to that, both from my own perspective and from my kids' perspective. Certainly my daughter, when we go on holiday, the first thing she looks for when we arrive somewhere is the Wi-Fi password. Yes, now bringing it a bit more to sort of present day. Again, talking about European telcos, can you think of if there's one like strategic truth that European telcos tend to ignore until it's too late?
Look, I'm not sure if they tend to ignore. This is it's a strong statement, but maybe they decided that they cannot deal with, right? So it's not ignoring, it's inability to deal with based on the constraints that was put around them by regulation. So if you go through the different European countries, which are in the different economical state, but you can find out that the average cost for the mobile subscription today in many countries, like again, we can start with Iberia, which is, in Portugal, it could be €3 per month. You can find a good, reliable service in Spain for €4-5 per month. And then, it's getting a little bit more expensive in Netherlands and Germany. But again, it could be single digits or €10 per month, right? So when you have those prices on the market, you only could deal with certain things, right? And by the way, the same goes for the fiber. The fiber prices went down significantly, while the fiber investments are huge, right? So amount of digging you have to do in order to bring fiber home is significant. So they have to decide what to do with that, right? Because they cannot on one side provide a good and reliable service to everybody, when on the other side they requested continuously to pay new licenses. like 4G, 5G, soon 6G. And while the ability to charge for the service is limited based on the regulation. And, again, if you go to the fiber, in majority of European countries, the 1 gigabyte fiber cost is around 35 euro. It's not a lot. So what they decide to do is actually invest less. They don't have any option. They simply don't have enough money to invest. And this created the danger for the sector, because by the end of the day, again, it's the most important, and at least from the new generation, service that we have on the planet. And we're underinvesting it because financially it doesn't work. I will give you another example, because I think it's always important to look at this. So we have a lot of geopolitical issues those days, right? So Russia and Ukraine, it's already going to the fourth year, in some other countries, right? So the electricity prices went up. At some point in certain countries, electricity prices went up 300%, because obviously the electricity is very important and the company could not survive. So the price of getting electricity went up, and they charged us for this increase with this certain proportion of the increase. At the same time, electricity prices has an impact on the telecom sector. And if some of us were paying, instead of 200 euro per electricity bill, 500, our telecom bill didn't went up from 5 to 7. So think about this comparison, right? We just discussed that both services are as important. So when one of the sector impacted, actually the regulation of this sector saying, okay, we need this sector have to survive. So the consumer should pay the price and the businesses should pay the price, and another does not. And the result of this, that when you today go to the different countries, the quality of the service is going down. I will give you an example. So I went to some study in NCR last year. You might be surprised, and NCR is based in Fontainebleau, which is about 25 kilometers from Paris, and it's quite central, right? It's not like some kind of rural area. For the last 10 kilometers of the highway from Paris to Fontainebleau, you don't have any connection. Any.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a kind of a highway within the forest, but still you would expect in advanced countries, France, to have, I'm not talking about internet connection, mobile signal.
Right.
I will. So when you land in the Dublin and you want to go to the Belfast by the highway, you're going 2.5 hours on the highway. There are no internet connection. So the operators, I'm sure they have some analysis and they realize where it's important to have a good network, where it's not important to have a good network based on the revenues, right? They're businesses. But because of the profile of their current cost and investments, they unfortunately have to minimize the investment in the network and in the system as well. As a result, the experience of the customer and how easy it is to use their services as well going down.
Yep, that all makes sense, and it is definitely an overarching, enduring challenge for the telecoms industry to raise revenues in order to be able to make the kind of investments and provide the kind of ubiquitous coverage that you were just saying that we hope for and expect. You also mentioned briefly regulation. If I could sort of go back to that, or more broadly, the policy environment. Can you think of where there's the biggest disconnect between European policy and operational reality in telecoms?
The biggest disconnect is, so you have a few major things, right? So first of all, the telecom operator must consistently invest, right? So every year, doesn't matter what is happening, they have to invest in network, right? Because you have to maintain the networks, you have to improve the networks, the new generation going happening, and they have to invest in the IT systems, right? Which a lot of them unfortunately neglecting, because if you cannot have a proper network, why to have IT systems? And in order to do this, you have to generate revenues. Now, they are limited by the regulator. how much they could charge for their services. Of course, part of it is competition as well, but again, the competition happened because of the reason that the regulator, European regulator, said, okay, I want to have 4 operators in each European country. And then on top of this, by the way, there is unlimited number in some of the countries of MVNOs. So the price is really very low. Ability to invest doesn't exist. Regulator put you in the very, I would say, rigid environment of what you can and cannot do. So that doesn't work. If you think for this for a second. So the population of Europe, out of my memory, about 400 something million. The population of US is almost the same. So in US you have 3 operators plus few MVNOs. In Europe you have hundreds, and if you're counting MVNOs, you're close to 500 operators for the same. Now I'm not saying that US situation is healthy. I think it's lacking of competition. The prices are too high. But there is somewhere a line in between.
Yeah.
And this line that regulator have to realize much faster than they're doing today. Now, slowly, European regulator allowing to go from 4 to 3 operators in the country, which is good. But again, you have to look at the countries, you have to look at MVNOs, you have to look at the full picture, and you have to make sure that one of the most important critical infrastructure of the 21st century is able to operate properly. And I think if you're asking not just us, right, because we are, let's call it older generation. Sorry to say this to you, Scott.
No,
but if you ask for our kids and if you ask them, okay, would you double your payment for your mobile subscription or for your broadband if you get ABCD, which is ABCD is the quality, ease of use, and so on. I truly believe that majority of them will say yes.
Okay.
And so this is for me the major thing that the regulator should look into it, because by the end of the day we are the consumer. Nobody regulate as heavily as telecom other industry, not water industry, not electricity industry, not others. All of those industries are infrastructural industries.
Yep, I agree. I think a lighter touch on regulation is overdue on telecoms. So yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said. So just to finish off, we addressing the leaders of Europe's telcos. If you could pick one signal, one thing that you really want them to pay attention to right now, what would that be?
Look, I think this is a very good question. Look, I think everybody talking about Gen AI, you cannot have any conversation without Gen AI. And sometimes I feel like it's a miracle pill, right? You take the pill, you're younger, you're healthy. By the way, you almost don't have to spend any money on this. It's just working by itself. Now, I don't believe in magical pills, not in the health and not in the technology. It's a very, very important technology, which will surely bring entire humanity to a different level. But in order to benefit from it, you have to have fundamentals right. And this technology, and by the way, my background, so I finished my PhD in what's called at that time data mining, then involved artificial intelligence, and now to this one. So the first thing that you have to do is to fix your data. Because if you cannot understand your data, the Gen AI will just give you the wrong advice and wrong recommendation, right? So the telecom sector, if they want to capitalize on this technology, which I think is essential for every industry, right? Not just for telecom, they have to fix their systems. And look at this. It's a very interesting perspective. So from time to time, we have a new incumbent operators on the market, which doesn't have any legacy, and they do it very well. At some point, they become legacy, and they become to struggle with the same thing as others, right? But before that, they're much faster, they're much slimmer, in a lot of aspects, they're much better. And what you have to do, every operator should go from the legacy stage to the certain extent to become a new operator again. And for this, there is no other way but to fix your backend systems, to solve your data issues, and to have a new environment. And I think there is, with all difficulties that we just discussed of investment, I think without doing this, operators will not gain an efficiency and the benefits that they could from this amazing technology. So this is what I want to wish them. Find a way to invest in your fundamentals, become this new greenfield operator while actually you already exist for the 30 years. And then you will benefit from the new technologies, which will bring value for you, for your customers, cost reduction, and more important, you will be in line for the future.
Okay, that sounds like great advice to me. And I just want to finish off by saying thanks a lot for a fascinating conversation. Some really interesting insights there. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Scott, as well. And the best regards to the daughter. Hopefully, our kids will get better service going forward.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks.